Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing my TBR for the Summer School Readathon. The Summer School Readathon is a creation of Doors of All the Books, and I will leave a link to the relevant videos down below. She has two up. So the idea of the Summer School Readathon is to read a series of books that tie into various school subjects. So let's get started. So for language arts, I'm going with two books. I'm pairing a fiction and a nonfiction work. So for the fiction work, and the only fiction on this list, I will be doing Blue Angel by Francine Prose, which heavily features a creative writing class. And this book, if you've been watching my videos, you will know I've been wanting to read this book for nearly 20 years. I saw a review of it in my local paper. I am sorry about that. When I was 16, 17, and was intrigued, and I've been intrigued ever since, and I've just now recently added it to my collection. So it is well past time I finally get around to reading the Blue Angel, or Blue Angel. And since the Blue Angel heavily features a creative writing class, I decided, well, maybe reading a book that would be assigned in a creative writing class would be appropriate. So I'm going to be rereading Wonderbook by Jeff Vandermeer. This is a guide to writing science fiction and fantasy, although the subtitle is The Illustrated Guide to Creating Imaginative Fiction, of which science fiction and fantasy are the most prominent examples. Although much of Jeff Vandermeer's work is new weird, and I really enjoyed this book when I read it. So I'm looking forward to having another go at it. It is richly illustrated. So, yeah. Absolutely looking forward to reading again. It's been about 2 years since I read it. Anyway, so moving on to social studies, I'm going to go with These Truths by Jill Lepore. This is a big soup to nuts new history of the United States that came out about 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm really looking forward to reading These Truths. Now, I don't have any science or math books. The next two subjects are math and science in my collection. I have a few imagined worlds that's science, and then two histories that have a heavy history of science component, Sea People and Wild Sea. But since I've read them this past year, I don't really want to reread them. And the last book I need to read for this round of the BookTube Prize, Underland by Robert McFarlane, I have it. It's the one book I needed for the every round seems I need to buy at least one book for the prize. But since it is for the BookTube Prize and I really can't discuss it until the end of this round, I'm going to not use it for either of these components. So I decided to go to my local library and use their ebooks. Given that we are still in a pandemic, I don't feel comfortable going to the library. Now, part of the problem is that even though they are reopened, you really cannot stay there. And if I took the bus, I would be there for a few hours, and there's really no place I could stay, so it would, yeah, not be a very pleasant trip. And my brother is considerably more worried about this pandemic than I am, even though I'm super worried about it too, but he's much more. So he wouldn't either for a curbside or for me to do a quick run-in. So we're sticking to checking out ebooks. So for the math side of, for the math class, I'm going to go with How to Bake Pie by Eugenia Cheng, which seems really, really interesting. And also ties into what I'm going to be doing for extracurricular, one of my extracurricular classes. For science, I decided I wanted to do 2 books. One for biological sciences, which is typically my favorite. I really, really love biology. And when I was in school, the science class I enjoyed the most by exponential was biology. Every Friday during football season, we would get to watch a wildlife film, and the teacher would just have this hilarious running commentary about the film, and I had a blast. I loved every moment of it. Probably made some of my classmates think I was insane, but hey. Anyway, so for the biology side of things, I'm going to go with The Language of Butterflies by Wendy Williams. And I also wanted to do a physics astronomy book, because while I do talk a lot about wanting to write fantasy or writing fantasy, I also do want to write at some point science fiction. And so I kind of need more of a basis. And I've also really have wanted to read this writer. So it'll be Letters from an Astrophysicist by deGrasse Tyson. Now, I watch Dr. Tyson's YouTube channel, Star Talk. That is simply amazing, but I've never actually written any of it, or I've never actually read any of his books. So I'm really looking forward to reading Letters from an Astrophysicist. And since I don't have physical copies, I have them written down on note cards with a lot of the other options I had. And if anybody's interested in like other options, I can ask in the comments and I'll drop them, but I'm just going to reference the ones that I'm actually going to be reading. So that wraps up the core requirements. Basically, in most classes you have like language, social studies, math and science as the 4 classes you take every year. And then you can have a number of extracurriculars. So I'm going to go with 2. Art and cooking. So for art, I'm going to be doing, or I'm going to be reading The Art of Pastel Painting by Flattmann. I don't know quite when this came out. I bought this for for Christmas in 2017 and read it in 2018, and I quite enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to going back and rereading it, and also do some of the demonstrations, which I'll talk about after I touch on the cooking book. So for cooking class, I will be reading The New Spanish Table by Anya von Bremzen. And I've read this a few years ago and really quite liked it, and just recently added it to my collection. So what I want to do with both of these books is put them down and then pick them back up. So throughout The Art of Pastel Painting and at the end of the book, there are a number of demonstrations. So for the summer school readathon, I'm going to be doing 3 of the demonstrations from this book. And I will be actually painting them. And then during a Friday wrap up, or maybe as a separate video, depending how things turn out, I will show them and talk about them. So that might necessitate maybe a separate video for this side project. And I'll talk more about that as I get around to actually painting the paintings, or painting the demonstrations. And I intend to do something similar with the new Spanish table. I will be picking 3 to 4 recipes that I find especially interesting, or that I can find ingredients relatively easily, or that I can reuse if like any special recipe or special ingredients, sorry. And I won't necessarily show them or take pictures of them. I'll talk about them and how they turned out, what I thought of them, that sort of thing. So I'm really looking forward to obviously painting from the demonstrations and also trying some new recipes. Now, how I'm going to be doing the follow-up is I'm going to start these books after the first weekend in July, maybe. So the first book I'm going to be reading in July will be Underland by Robert McFarlane, which is for the BookTube prize. And then after I finish Underland, I will start on the summer school readathon. I will, I think, do progress reports during weekly reads, with and also touching on the recipes as needed during weekly reads. But I think for the art side of it, I think I'll do a separate one. So I'll do the 3 demonstrations, and then I'll do a dedicated video in the my art space, unless I can't find a way to film it in the art space, in which case I'll think of something. I don't necessarily want to drag all 3 pastels in here or all 3 paintings in here and hold them up, because I will be getting pastel dust all over the place. So I'm going to probably try to film in my art room. Anyway, now Doris also mentions whether, like, asking in her videos whether or not anybody who will be doing this readathon are teachers. I'm not. Although that said, initially when I was in school, I'd always wanted to be a college professor. And also there was some interest at some points to wanting to be a regular school teacher, like high school, history, language, something like that. And in another life I might have been. But yeah, I'm not a teacher. So anyway. So that's, I'm sorry about this ending. Yeah. So I'll wrap it up here. I don't know if I'll have any other videos up today or tomorrow. And if there are, I'll film them, upload them. I wanted to do like a grab bag musing video or something, but yeah, when I actually sit down to try to film the video, I don't quite know how to begin. I don't know how to intro to my thoughts. So maybe I need to work on that. Maybe try to film myself when I'm going off on one of my rants or tangents or whatever, and seeing if maybe that would help, and then how exactly I get into flowing on those videos. But that's something for the future. I might have a writing video up tomorrow, I don't know. And if there's any other videos, I'll obviously film them and upload them. But until then, thank you, BookTube. Have a great day and stay safe whether you are protesting or just going about your day. Please stay safe. We are still in a pandemic and the confirmed cases are skyrocketing across the country. So please try to stay safe. Thank you, BookTube, and have a great day.